at least in America, I don't know what it's like in the UK. I'm assuming it's fairly similar. The education system tends to be extremely liberal. The people in the education system tend to, swing left, be more woke, so to speak. How, as a Muslim, right, which, naturally the religion is fairly conservative, how were you able to kind of maneuver in the education system without dealing with headaches or problems?
Like, it depends on what I've been to 4 universities. So like each university, actually each and every single one of them that I went to in the United Kingdom have been left-leaning universities. Yeah. Right. So I'll be honest, there's pros and cons from like a Muslim traditional perspective of going to a left-leaning place. The pro of it is that they are quite, I mean, obviously you'll know this, I mean, they're quite inclusive in that sense. So they are afraid to say or do things that are going to offend you as a Muslim. They're aware of your cultural sensitivities and so on. Obviously, the cons are well known. I mean, I think we're all aligned on some of the cons in woke culture and leftism in general. And obviously, being around that, I don't like to see and be around some of that stuff. You know what I mean? As an individual, it's not my taste. It's not something I enjoy to see. However, I mean, I think the pros actually are more than the cons from my angle, at least, because at least I can get my job done. Yeah, I've had issues, but at the end of the day, when you're doing your dissertations, when you're doing your examinations in the United Kingdom, they have a degree of anonymity. So like, for example, when I was doing A levels in this country, which is like the equivalent of SATs in America, I done well in my A levels because no one knew who I was. Do you know what I mean? I scored high grades because no one knew who I was. When I got to university, once again, there were anonymity things. But here's the thing, I have actually suffered in the United Kingdom as a result of my views. For example, I used to work as a school teacher at one point, and this was famous news. In fact, one person that you interviewed, which is Tommy Robinson, was part of the reason for this. Well, I was working as a school teacher, and there was this kind of like, they called it the Freedom March. Then me and Ali Dawah came down. This was in 2018. It's public record. You can probably check this if you wanted to. Went and we wanted to challenge Tommy Robinson. In fact, Tommy Robinson had actually invited Ali to be one of the speakers of the event. So last minute, we went there. Last minute, they cancelled him being the speaker. And then we got beaten up, basically, because there was like, hundreds of them. They rushed us, which means they came in, they tried to beat us up. The videos are online. I don't know if you've seen them.
Physically?
Yeah, beat us physically. Yeah, it wouldn't be any other way. I mean, there was maybe 30 assailants or something like that. Do you know what I mean? So what happened is, after that, my school contract got cancelled. So I couldn't work as a school teacher anymore. So I realized that for me as a Muslim that has these views in the West and the United Kingdom, it's either censorship or it's not just censorship from a social media platform, which is something we're afraid of. And we were speaking to Sneaker. Obviously, he's been afraid. He's been censored and blocked off YouTube and stuff like that. But it's also the fact that you get fired from jobs, you get managed out of things. You can't be free. You cannot be free as a conservative, if you like, traditionalist Muslim. So these are some of the things that I suffered, like growing up and stuff like that in this country. And so I had to make my living as a content creator. It wasn't actually my ambition. I wanted to do some kind of work, and at the same time, I'm trying to say, do content creation. But it just so happened that everything forced me towards this, because it's not just that I became unemployed, but it became unemployable when I had certain views. Like, for example, the views of LGBT for Muslims, just like Orthodox Jews and many Christians. We don't believe that homosexuality is an acceptable morality, for example. So having that view is unacceptable to the majority of society in the West, especially in London. So it's forced me into this corner, I would say.
Wow. Because